If life was someday proven to be a simulation, what glitch or anomaly could you point to as a major clue we'd missed? IDK if this is just me, but I often have a boring dream of myself in a classroom or on a bus, wake up and forget it pretty quickly. Then, many years later, I'm on a bus or in a classroom and I see something or hear something that I saw or heard in that dream. Then I suddenly remember that dream and get really confused. In reality, I probably dreamed about being in a different classroom or on a different bus and my brain took this new, but very similar event and overlaid it over the old dream, changing my memory of that dream. It's happened about 10 times in my life so far. Deja vu is the name for this, I believe. Yep, and it is insane, happens to me all the time and I always try to alter what happens. I've been successful in doing so a couple of times. I say some random sugar I would never ever say, like papaya donkey, and I have never seen like an immediate effect by there could also be a long-term effect for all I know, like butterfly effect. Why physics appears to operate under different rules depending on whether you are looking at very big things or very small things. If it is a simulation, they simply fake the big things to save processing power, which is why quantum physics doesn't fit neatly in our understanding of the universe and likely why we are detecting dark matter. The way stuff behaves differently based on whether or not it's observed also seems like the programmers are trying to hide how the source code works. To observe something is to interact with it. To interact with something is to change it. Just pointing this out as a lot of people think it actually has to do with a consciousness looking at something. But it's really not. It should totally be the interaction effect instead of the observer effect. IMO. When your pen gets lost as soon as it hits the floor, and then appears right there after some time. I dropped a pen once while doing homework back in high school. I was sitting on a bench in a grassy field that was not overgrown by any means. There wasn't anything around the bench. I spent an absurd amount of time looking for the pen before deciding it vanished. See, the speed of light reads like a hotfix. Change notes for version 1.0.0.0.0.0.0.0.1. Latter game players have been reporting a bug where objects appear to spawn before the spawn conditions have been met, causing erroneous results. Testing reveals that objects traveling at very high speeds cause an int overflow on the time axis, resulting in unpredictable results and skyrocketing CPU usage. As a temporary fix, massless objects now have their velocity locked for call purposes. Objects with mass will require exponentially increasing energy to increase speed, hitting a hard wall at 3x 10 carat 8 meters per second. This means interstellar travel is functionally disabled. Will eventually be addressed in the wormhole update, released BAP. For now, please stay away from any black holes. Those things are written on spaghetti code. We just hacked in infinite gravitational wells, so that anything that interacts with them and glitches out is hidden behind functional unobservability. We need to have meaningful code reviews, people. Well, yesterday while driving with my daughter in the car, she says, "Dad, I'm starting to feel that this whole human thing isn't real." Apostrophe. So I guess that would be confirmed as my first hint. All those names of people in the news or running for different positions that just seem like the devs are messing with us. Like the one where a politician named Wiener got caught in a sex scandal sending pictures of his wiener to women. Next you'll tell us about the guy named Madoff W. Harlot made off with people's money in a Ponzi SCHE. Sometimes you get out of your house and walk past the same people a lot of times. Like, you are going to the market and walk past a dude walking the opposite direction. Then, you leave the market a couple of minutes and walk past the same dude again in the opposite direction. This suga happens a lot with me, and it's like a ton of people at the same time. It makes me feel like there aren't enough models of NPCs to throw around, so the Matrix just uses a bunch of the same. Edit. Grammar. Walk through equals walk past. English is not my first language. Sorry. You could say the strict laws of physics that govern our reality. If we were in, say, a video game, we'd eventually start wondering why the rules seem absolutely rigid/mathematical. Maybe the speed of light is just the speed limit for transmitting information within the network of our simulation. Edit. A typo. This is absurd, but I know the exact moment I would call BS on reality. I was out for supper with my mother, grandmother and sister, and after we had, mostly, finished eating there was a moment where my sister and I, across from one another, witnessed the same thing. It was a mundane dinner and mundane conversation, yet a moment occurred that I would shock my sister and I. While my mother and grandmother were talking there was an instance where a white plate between my sister and I shook on the table. It had been clear previous, but post table shake, a solitary French fry appeared on the plate. At first I thought I was the only person witnessing this bizarre reappearing act, however post appearing I locked eyes with my sister W. Harleth had seen the same th. We still talk about that stupid fucking fry to this day. I threw a French fry all the way across the school cafeteria with ketchup on it, and it landed right in this guy's mouth as he opened it wide to say OMG or something. Are you sure a child just didn't throw a fry? When you run into someone you don't know and you both stare at each other saying, "You look familiar. Do I know you?" And then ask a million questions trying to figure it out, and come to the conclusion that you don't in fact know each other. Then walk away still wondering why that person looked so familiar. So, at my first job after college, I run into this guy in the smoking area, and he said, "Hey, how's it going?" Apostrophe. I knew him right off the bat, but I'm absolutely horrible with names. Plus I couldn't quite place him. Did I know him from high school, college, friend of a friend, academic conference, someone I interviewed for the paper? So I talk with him for a few minutes, waiting for the guy to drop some sort of hint to trigger my memory. Finally he looks me straight in the eye and says, "You don't remember me, do you?" I was so embarrassed, but freely admitted it and asked him to remind me. He gets this stunned look and said, "Oh, shit, really? Because I've been waiting for you to say something to remind me." Apostrophe. We've known each other 22 years, been a couple for 20 years, and been married for 12 years. We still don't know when we met the first time. We have a couple guesses, but don't know for sure. The weird part is that we figured out there were multiple times we should have met, but didn't. We knew a lot of the same people, but at different times. A guy I went to college with was someone he knew in junior high. His best friend's girlfriend shared a high school class with me. I was acquaintances with a girl he dated just before he enlisted in the Navy, which was right about the time I moved into the area. The oddest one was that we should have met as young kids. We should have met when I was in first grade and he was in third grade, because we both qualified for an enrichment program that year, but my family was going to move later that year, so my parents kept me out. So, yeah, we know the second time we met, but not the first, and should have met earlier but kept missing. Dreaming. How it could be a gateway to another universe or version of yourself. And how do we manage to forget most dreams, especially the important ones? Before cell phones I accidentally misdialed a person's number and got them at someone else's house with the wrong number being 3 numbers off. Edit thanks for the awards. I talked to her for about a minute and she asked me how I got her uncle's number. I said I didn't have his number. I dialed hers. We both fell deadly silent thinking about how bizarre it was. That thing where you go into a room for something and then forget why. Like a sim W Harleth did their action cancel. Led. That can't be for no reason. Son, that was someone in our simulation cancelling our action. Often when I learn about something new I've never heard about, all of a sudden it starts appearing randomly in some TV show I'm watching, or a news/Reddit article. They should fix the targeted algorithm to make it less obvious I'm living in a simulation. Some get sick for no reason and some W Harlot should be sick because of how they live seems super heal. No kidding. I don't take care of myself nearly enough, but almost never get sick, while I know incredibly responsible people W Harlot are just disease and ailment man. Once I was walking, then my lung collapsed. Another day I lifted my hands up, my spine got displaced. Another time I hit my leg on my bike. One of my hair goes inside. Boom, big infection. Still have a mark. I'm not fat BTW. Just normal looking, a bit tall, but not even too much. No freaking reason at all. The need to sleep. Gotta reset the system or it slows down. Has glitches and deteriorates because it can't clear out the useless junk and runs out of space. The dumbest thing about this is that even scientists they've studied sleep for decades can't really explain why we do it. Millions of years of evolution and we can still accidentally bite our own tongue? That's some bullshit. Extreme synchronicity. People write it off as coincidences, but I sometimes don't. This should be higher up. It's absolutely insane. I have a personal journal full of synchronicities titled It Doesn't Add Up, and I make easily dozens of entries a month. Some of them are kind of explainable, but some of them are just WTF. The karma system is broken as F. The dual slit experiment. Basically, light acts like a wave when you look at it. But if you look at light really closely, you see it's not a continuous wave, but made of teeny little particles called photons. These photons, when there's loads of them, affect each other so they act in waves. Seems simple. However, when you fire photons one at a time at a piece of card with two slits in it, they still act like they are being affected by lots of other photons around them. So whoever designed our simulation wanted to model light using waves. But it was too complex so made photons instead. The same way a curve in a video game is actually made of square pixels. They never figured we'd get smart enough to experiment on individual pixels. How do we let one photon in a time? How do we know it is only one? I need like LE1. I love this stuff, but I'm not very bright. Excuse the pun. Fog is just a draw distance limitation when the majority of memory is being used elsewhere in the simulation. Children are convinced that they've lived Beth and know sometimes verifiable facts about the person they think they were. Yeah. OMG, I was at work once and a little kid pointed at me and said he knew me. The mom asked where from and he said, from before I was born. Apostrophe. It's been like 6 years since that happened and I think about it a lot. Lol, definitely tripped me out. Look around the room you're in. Choose any random object within the room. What does it feel like to lick that object? You know what it feels like to have licked it. But have you ever? Single biggest glitch in my book. Pretty sure I actually have licked most of them. The fact that the moon and the sun can just about perfectly eclipse each other. What are the odds that the moon and sun would be the sizes they are and distances from the earth that they are to allow that to happen? Yes. Came here to find this because I always thought this coincidence just a little too convenient. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.